Hi everyone, this is page 52. This is another put on your thinking cap. Alright, so it says the mass of a completely filled glass of water is 200 grams. When half the water is poured out, the total mass of the glass of water is 120 grams. What is the mass of the empty glass? Alright, so let's look at this again. Mass of a completely filled glass of water is 200 grams. So here's my water. So here's my cup, my glass. And in my glass, I have water, and the whole thing's filled up. All right. And when all of it's filled up, it is 200 grams. Now I poured some out. Boop. I poured some water out. I poured half of it out. So half of it's poured out. Now, when half of it's poured out, I have 120 left, and that's include the glass and the water, which means I do not know how much, I'm going to put a question mark, of water I poured out. Whoops, let me go back. So that means I don't know how much water I poured out. All I know is I poured out half of it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out how much water I poured out. When I poured half of it out, I had 120 left. I started with 200. I poured some out. I have 120 left, which I know then I need to figure out how much water I poured out. And the only way to do that, if I take 200 and I split it apart with how much water I poured out and how much water I have left, I am going to subtract because I'm splitting something apart. So I started with 200. I poured it out and I ended up with 120 left. So let's figure out how much water I poured out, or what's the mass of the water I poured out. 0 minus 0 is 0. I can't do 0 minus 2, so I have to regroup. Take 1 away. 2 becomes a 1. Add 10 more. 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. So now I know that I poured out 80 grams of water. And I know that 80 grams of water is half of the water because it says half the water. So if 80 grams is half, that means 80 grams is the other half that's in the water. And if I know that my glass and my water, so I don't have 200 anymore, is 120, and 80 grams of that is my water, then I can figure out what is the mass of the glass, which is the glass on this outside piece over here. And I'll say that one more time. So I know that 120 is the glass and the water, and I know that 80 is the water. And if I want to figure out what the glass is I need to then split it apart or take it away. So if I take my 120, which is the glass and the water, and I take away just the water, I'm going to end up with just the glass. And again, I know the water is 80 because when I poured out half, I poured out 80 grams, which means there's 80 grams left. 0 minus 0 is 0. 2 minus 8, I can't do that. I have to regroup. Take 1 away. Add 10 more. 2 becomes a 12. 12 minus 8 is 4, which means out of that 120, 80 would be the water and 40 would be the glass. So what is the mass of the empty glass? Well, the mass of the empty glass is 40 grams. All right, and that's page 52.